Welcome to the 2023 potato review. As you will know from the past if you watch my videos, it's not just a straightforward potato review. I've got different blends of compost in here that I'm testing. No fertiliser, no manure, just different blends of compost. Seaweed laced stuff, worm finished compost, comfrey finished compost, 30-day compost, all sorts of different things. That's my water timer coming on for the water and the cucumbers. So that's what it's all about. I'll be emptying all the pots. I don't go through every single pot. I'll just list the results at the end. I'll do an example one to start off with, sort of thing, because I think it'd be rather boring to go right through all this lot, mercilessly recording, emptying every pot, and that's just boring. So hopefully I'll keep this relatively close, but still give you the important information of how much the yields are. Let's hope there's not a disaster like the Morris pipe were. At the end of this video, I'll just say this is grass cuttings I used for mulch on top of each one. I usually use bracken. I had the great idea of using grass clippers this time. Don't know if it's a success or not, but anyway, at the end of this video will be how I store potatoes. It's worth a watch because I've learned over the years that you can store them very easily, last right way through, and it's quite adaptable to the weather, as long as you don't get it wet and you don't get it hot in the spring. More on that later. One thing I will say is the Carolus had roots coming through the bottom of the pots a lot more than the Blue Danube. Right, so I've broken into this particular clip on the audio side because I want to quickly say a couple of things. This is harvesting the compost with unwashed seaweed, just to show that you don't need to wash seaweed. The salts contained within it are relatively small and they do no harm whatsoever. The yields were very comparable with the rest, so that's one good thing. No need to wash seaweed. Right, so what I want to say to you is those of you expecting actual yields from the different types of compost, I haven't done it on this video because when I harvested the potatoes I was quite frustrated and I basically finished the job, got it all set up, and then walked off and left the actual paper up the allotments. I hope I can recover it when I get up there and it hasn't blown off. If not, that's a bit embarrassing. Surprisingly, the best yield came from the comfrey laced compost. That would be 30-day compost that was recomposted with a year's supply of comfrey leaves, and it actually yielded the best. That's always been one of the better performers in the past, but this year that was the best. I will try and do a follow-up video, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Carolus, of course, is a variety of potato that is blight resistant. Can get blight, but it mostly shrugs it off, which is rather beneficial. Nice eating potato, stores well. There's a lot to like about it. Not a heavy yielder, so these now are Blue Danube. Nice dark skinned variety. Again, another one that's supposed to be blight resistant. Oh, fingers crossed. I wasn't too impressed with that harvest really. It was well down on previous years. There are this Blue Danube. Lovely purple ones. Yeah, so that harvest is well down on previous years. I can only blame the dry weather. You can water as much as you like. You never keep up with it the same. Now, Blue Danube is a brilliant roaster, jacket potato, potato. Absolutely gorgeous tasting. I found it to be not the highest yield in the world, but I grew it for its blight resistance and the flavour when cooked. And this is just from wood chip, so this is interesting because I would expect to get a lower yield. That's the seed potato. I would expect to get a lower yield, and it is. I would have hoped for a little bit better than this. That is very light, actually. Very light. Level. Well, I have to admit that's the worst crop of potatoes I've ever had. I've never had such a bad crop as that. I'm actually quite frustrated for ounces. It's been so dry. These potatoes have had 7 waterings. Just can't keep up with it. Towards the end we had a bit of rain to make up for a little bit, but I don't know. I've got to admit, I'll give up growing potatoes if it ever years, I guess. I mean, you consider last year that the yields were easily double this, using the same types of compost, same ideas. It's pathetic. Can't really say about those really. It's a huge disappointment. Massive. You imagine being, I know this isn't the same problem, you imagine being the Irish folk back in the 19th century. Back along when they had the potato famines, this was a staple crop, and that was all covered by blights. Political reasons why that was perpetuated, not just the weather alone. But you imagine the heartbreak of bringing the crop. I mean, I'm lucky I can go out to the shops all winter and buy potatoes. They'll probably be expensive this year, but I can't imagine the heartbreak. Still, look on the bright side, the onions are looking good. So this is how I store potatoes. In the bucket with the compost that you just used. This is lightly damp, not soaking wet, but damp, because you're looking to keep the potatoes in perfect order. And all it's a matter of doing is placing these around. Don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can. And I don't want them touching ideally. And I don't want them touching the sides of the container either. There we are. And then you put a layer of this compost in, just covering it. You know, we're talking about a couple of millimeters over the top. And these will keep until next year, and these conditions perfectly okay. And all you do is you keep on layering that right up the container until you reach the top. Put a layer at the top and then keep it somewhere cool until summer's end. So in the shade somewhere, covered with something to make sure the moisture doesn't get in. Slightly off the ground because you don't want the moisture wicking up through the compost. And then over winter, I'll move it into one of the sheds. And I have got to keep it as cool as possible, but frost free. And frost free is the important bit, because obviously during that big cold snap recently, that did test all of us. In the dingy corner of the plot, I'm not going to show you around because it's all a bit of a mess. In this corner, it's my regular dumping ground next to neighbours' allotment. We've got an old bottomless water barrel here that I fill up with the compost, the 1-year-old compost, not the stuff that the seaweed was used in last year, but this is the this is the comfrey, the worm compost, and it all gets stored away there over winter, and then this lot will become the seaweed compost next year. And it's all kept dry because I'll cover it over and reuse it for the potato next year. The seaweed compost, because this is potentially the 3rd year that it's been used on potatoes, probably the 2nd, but you know, are on the side of caution. That will be used just as it is with no fertiliser added in the winter carrots. Absolutely superb for winter carrots. So those are going in containers into the polytunnel, and carrots will be sown in the next month. Right, so looking back at the evidence for the crop potatoes from Maris Piper, the foliage didn't really support blight theory, but the tubers certainly did. This is the top layer of potatoes of Maris Piper. And then in storage, things got worse. These were stored potatoes that were looked clean when they went in and have progressed to show blight. Way back in May, we had a period, 1 month before we ever had it before, of conditions that suit blight, which is above 10 degrees centigrade for 24 hours. So we had 3 consecutive days above that temperature with very high humidity, perfect conditions, which was miles too early. And of course my potatoes would have suited the fungus generation because my potatoes were much earlier than everybody else's. Other people on the allotments have also reported blight on odd potatoes, and yep, I can say without a shadow of doubt this is what happens. Extremely unlucky, but it's something I've got to be mindful of in future years, because this was a waste of time on the Maris Piper this year. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.